Thank you for calling the Hot Strings Hotline. This is Roderick. Who am I speaking with?
Hi, this is Darren Cubie, the son of Cordell Jones from the music group The Shylights and author of Inside the Side. Sir?
Okay, author what again?
I am also the author of Inside the Shylights Music, which is an autobiography based off of my family from the Shylights and our experiences dealing with the music entertainment industry and the various aspects of extraterrestrial and satanism within the music and entertainment field.
All right, so I did get an email from you already, right? So this is the famous Satellite Music Group. Am I correct?
Yes. I'm the son of Cordell Jones from the Shylights. My name is Darren Cubie. I appeared on Fraternity Court Television show. My father's Cordell Jones, the baritone co-founder and bass singer of the Shylights, which is best known for Have You Seen Her, Old Girl, Letter to Myself, and songs like Cold as Days. Some of the remakes were by Beyonce, Jay-Z, Seal, Kanye West, Fantasia. Beyonce remade my father's song he led on, or Got Me Going So Crazy Right Now, that she remade from the original song, Are You My Woman, which my father, Cordell, led on that song.
Wow, I'm back to that. Some hell of a royalties your family are going to get for that, huh?
Well, actually, we didn't receive any royalties from that. Even though MC Hammer also remade Have You Seen Her and sold 10 million, Beyonce sold 19 million in 2 months, giving her a double diamond, and MC Hammer became the first rapper to go diamond in the history of music. But we never received any money from that. The original contract was for $375,000, and that was based off of my negotiation with Jay-Z. I went to New York trying to do a situation where I was trying to negotiate royalty conflicts and royalty payments that hadn't been given to my mom when she was alive following the death of my father in 94. And my mom and I decided to try to sell the catalog royalties we had because of the record company's theft of our royalties that we never really got. They would give us like $2,600 a month and say that was all of the royalties. So
pause right there, Darren, because I'm not a music mogul or understand the concept, but I am a UFO alien investigator and all of that stuff, and I just wanted to kind of verify who I was talking to and just now. And man, your email says some stuff about alien encounters with your family. We're talking, what am I reading here? Alien technology. We're talking, guided system stuff. I mean, this is probably by far some of the biggest things I've heard in a while when it comes down to someone, and really saying this. And first of all, I'll just start out to say that, we talking about equipment, we talking about, technology and stuff. So
absolutely.
And you use the term holograms and alien hologram machines and everything else. So first, let's go back to, this particular moment, or is it several moments? Where can we start? And then the first thing I would ask, where is this stuff? Where's the evidence of this stuff? Who got it?
Yes, sir. Well, I was told by my mother and father that my father, Cordell Jones from the Shylights, actually was given the extraterrestrial devices that he obtained from my grandmother, which is his mother, which passed down to him. So my father basically got the extraterrestrial devices from his mother. And it's to my understanding that my grandmother had Indian and Puerto Rican and black descent. So apparently it was passed down from my research, some of the Indian tribal members of my family, of my father's family, who passed it down to her, which is my grandma's mother.
What tribe did you trace your lineage back to?
Sheesh, it's been a while. I cannot necessarily say that because I'm primarily black, and my mother's fully black, and my father had Puerto Rican, Indian, and black. So we're from St. Louis, Missouri, so it would be Blackfoot Indian and or Cherokee Indian. But yeah, so my grandmother actually gave the devices to him, is what he told me. I'm only going by what I heard and what my mother and father told me based off of where he got these devices, because I had the same questions that you have. And some of the devices it was an extraterrestrial hologram device, which was what we call a touch screen technology hologram device. This was given to my father way back in the 70s and 80s, by his mother. And so this device was shaped as a triangular metallic object shaped in a triangular shape, and it was metal, silver metallic metal, and it had touchscreen technology. When you touched it, it activated a hologram type of, I want to say image, but these images were actually physical, energetic, physical matter images. So basically this device turned images into basically energetic matter.
So help me for a minute, and every now and then I may just kind of cut in to have questions if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So this technology, you're hearing this from your parents. You didn't actually see this, correct?
No, I did see. I was the witness. Me, my sister, my whole family was there actually. But me, my sister, my father, my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt and my uncle were there.
And how old were you and everyone around about this time?
I, at that time, was about 6. My sister was 7, and my oldest sister was about 11. And my mother was about, I want to say 32, and my father was about 41, 42. And my grandmother was in her 50s. My aunt was in her 40s. I'm sorry, in her late 30s, or 40s. And so, and then my uncle.
Take me back. Yeah. Take me back to that moment. Where were you? Where were y'all living? And what day? Was it spring, Christmas? Just kind of give me the whole
summer. This was a summer night.
Environment of what was happening, where y'all were, and were y'all gathering outside? Were y'all in the house? Just take me to that moment. Take all of.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what happened in the event that actually occurred that I witnessed. I was in the house with my sister, my mom, and my father, and my grandmother and aunt and uncle. And it was a evening around 6 to 7 p.m. On a summer night. And we lived in St. Louis, Missouri. We were over, my mother and father took me and my sisters over our grandmother's house. So this happened in my grandmother's house. It happened there while we were on a visit to see our grandmother. Our mother and father had took us over there. And so from that point, my mother, being a young, late 20s, early 30-year-old lady, she was very impressed on some of the devices that my father showed her, some of the extraterrestrial devices that my father showed her. And some of those devices happened to be this triangular metallic object shaped in a pyramid shape, in a cone shape, like a pyramid, and it was metallic gray. And she was so impressed, she wanted to show our grandmother, her mother. So she said, Mom, I got this device that, Credell gave me this device. Credell meaning my father from the Shielites. She says, Credell gave me this device. I want to show you. I want to show you this device. So my grandmother replied, like, really, what is it? What is it? And then, my mother said, see, look. And so my grandmom's like, well, I never seen nothing like that. What is it? And so my mother touched it. She said, look what I do. Look what I do look what it does when I touch it. So she put her hand on top of the side of the metallic cone-shaped, basically device, extraterrestrial holographic device that she had that projected these animated hologram type of whole entire hologram pictures that were made up of energetic matter. And so when she touched it, she activated this machine, and it was about the size of, it was about, I'm gonna say 3 feet, 3.5 to maybe 2.5 to 3 feet in height. Not a big machine, but she actually held it in her hand when she activated. She put it on her lap and held it in her hand and touched the side of it, and then it completely shot out these holographic images which were able to be physically touched. These were images, whole entire basically holographic map. So this machine mapped out in holographic images the planets and solar systems of different planets all over our galaxy. And also it mapped out whole entire landscapes of different planets throughout our solar system and galaxy. And it also showed, it projected, it began, what scared me the most is that when she touched this object, it started to talk in different languages. This extraterrestrial holographic machine started reciting and trying to communicate with us through all types of languages, including extraterrestrial languages and every language on Earth. German, Russian, China, Japanese, African, Swahili. It was going through every language on Earth until it registered, until it picked up the verbal language that my mother and father and grandmother was speaking. And once it could identify their language, it turned into English, almost like a computer-generated activated phone would do, or a computer. We have phones that you can talk to and they can understand and relate, and they can translate languages. So it was kind of similar to that. And so then after it translated the speech that it was trying to relay in English, after hearing our talk, it basically communicated in English, and then it basically started describing different planets and solar systems throughout the universe, and as it manifested what we would call a great extraterrestrial bi-entity hologram. It was a hologram based off of an extraterrestrial image of a gray, which also stood in front of our living room, and this gray hologram extraterrestrial image was actually beginning to talk to us as the hologram projected different solar system landscapes and different planet landscapes, from deserts to oceans to seas to whole entire planets. The outer planet and inner exterior of the planet, showing the landscape, the trees, the water, and et cetera. And you could tell that this was an extraterrestrial bi-entity that this machine basically was a mapping machine that extraterrestrial entities used to be able to map out their whole entire trips to different universes and galaxies and solar systems, et cetera, et cetera. And it basically shot the images out in holographic physical energetic manifestations where you could actually touch these holographic images. They were physical images. They were not just holographic images that you would look on TV or on a movie screen. They were actually physical energetic entities.
Wow.
And,
so
yeah.
So at this point, what are we with your family and this is going on?
What happened? Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
My grandmother was shocked. I mean, she just stood in the floor with her mouth open. Everybody was shocked to the point. My goodness, they just froze. If you can ever say either they froze in suspense. They were completely almost froze in suspense. And then my grandmother said, "What is this? What is this? Are those aliens? Are those aliens?" And so my mother said, "I don't know what they are. I think they're aliens." And so shortly after that, during this holographic display from this extraterrestrial device, which had these bi-entity hologram images they were physical manifestations of matter, of energetic matter that you could touch. They were energetic holograms that you could touch, made out of energetic matter, way more advanced than anything we have, on this earth. And shortly after that, we heard a banging on our door, and my mother said, "Well, who is that? Somebody's knocking on the door." Right after the machine stopped and cut off, my mother touched it again, and it shut off. Next thing we know, within about 5 minutes, we heard some knocking on the door, and someone just banging on the door. So my mom says, "Who is that?" And she walks to the door and answers it, opens the door, and there's a 5-star general, Air Force general, standing in front of our door within 5 minutes of the activation of this device.
Now, how did you know he was a 5-star general?
He had a 5-star general outfit on. He had a 5-star, Air Force general, whole entire uniform on.
You was able to recognize that when you were young.
Oh yes, and it also was 2 men in black. 3 men in black that were standing next to him. Two on one side, on the left side of him, and one on the right side.
Now,
and they were, yeah.
Now, did they say where they from? In fact, how they got there so quickly? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Did you ever think about that? Man?
I didn't think how they got there that quick. I don't know how they. Good question. I really can't say how they got there so fast, but that's a good question because they got there within 5 minutes after the deactivation of the extraterrestrial hologram device. Within 5 minutes, they were there.
And this was your first time using it, and
yes,
right.
Right, and the 5-star general tells my mother, he says, "Where is the device? Where is the alien device? We know you activated the device. We traced and tracked the device here to this house. We know the extraterrestrial device was activated. Where is the device at?" So then my mother says, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. She didn't want to give the device up because it was an heirloom from my grandmother.
No, not the grandmother that was in the room, right?
No, my father's mother.
Okay, your father's mother. Okay.
Right, her mother was in our room. Her mother. We went to visit her mother, my mother's mother, not my father's mother. We went to visit my mother's mother. named Mary in St. Louis. But all of us are from St. Louis. My grandmother on my father's side is from St. Louis, and my grandmother on my mother's side is from St. Louis.
Mm.
My father moved from Mississippi when he was a young kid, and they moved to St. Louis. And my mother and her family is from Oklahoma and St. Louis, Missouri. So most of our family on both sides are from St. Louis, but at that time we went to visit her mother, and we were over my mother's mother's house, and my grandmother's house, which is on my mother's side. So that this 5-star general happened to be standing next to these 3 men in black, and he had a 5-star Air Force general outfit, and they came in a black car, right? And so a black Lincoln, as a matter of fact, a black Lincoln. It was around 1982, black Lincoln. And I don't know how they got there that quick, but he demanded that my mother give the object to him. He told her if she didn't give him the object, they were going to put them in prison, him and my mother in prison, and everybody in there. And he said, yeah. And she had to actually sign a privacy agreement and confidentiality disclosure, government Air Force disclosure agreement with the U.S. Air Force, not to ever disclose any of this information out. They had the government disclosure confidential form with them in a briefcase.
Okay, so now I'm sure the audience is listening or will be listening to this when I play it. And you being 6 years old, having very vivid, detailed information, like, for example, black car, 1982. How would you kind of explain to those people who will be thinking, how would he know that car was a 1982 car? It was,
the year was 19. Yes, sir. This is how they know. Well, the year, I go by the year that it happened, which is 1982, right? And I know the style of it. I didn't know at that time what a Lincoln Town Car was, right? But then I'm 47 now, so I've seen different types of cars, and I like luxury cars, so I kind of study cars. So I've seen an 82 Lincoln that looks similar to what it looked like. This is what it looked like, was like a governmental style 82 Lincoln. Something that, and in fact, U.S. generals used to ride in Lincolns. That's kind of a governmental car for generals, for presidents, mayors, governors, senators, and generals and high-ranking military people. That's kind of the standard car that they had, too, a lot of times. But this was a black car, too, and it was black, which is standard for a governmental vehicle. But I'm going,
go ahead. What was your reaction? Because you got a lot of stuff we're going to get into here. So, because this is not the only event, and
you
mentioned there was other devices. So, where are these devices? Because they took that, but they didn't take them all, right? So, who would have some of the other stuff?
Yes, the government, Air Force general, and these guys that were in black, I take them to be like CIA people. The guys that were in black probably were CIA, but what they asked for was the device that my mom had activated. They didn't know that my mother had 3 other devices, which all came from this, what I think to be, what I seen with my eyes to be, these were materials and objects that were on a spaceship. And what it really came from, the actual extraterrestrial holographic projector system, it came from a UFO crash, from what I think.
So now,
and some of the objects that they did not get was an extraterrestrial guiding system, which was to describe how it looked, was a panel system. It's like a port of a spaceship paneling system that operates the flying mechanisms of the spaceship, of the UFO. So this flying mechanism was activated by touch. Everything was activated by touch, including the hologram projector, the extraterrestrial hologram projector. But the object that they used to guide the UFO spaceships was a hand-printed guiding mechanism, which you have to put your handprint. It actually had an alien handprint, 2 alien handprints made on this panel system that my mother had in the house that she didn't give to the Air Force.
Now, how did y'all know? How did you know this was the guiding system? Who told you? Because you didn't talk to the aliens if it was a crash retrieval.
Right. I'm assuming that that's what it was because of the fact that it's the way that it's basically a panel device, like a portion of the panel operational system of some form of device that these extraterrestrials used. And I'm assuming a spaceship. What I seen was basically handprint ID. You know how you got fingerprint ID, where you put your thumb on a computer mechanism device, and it can recognize your thumbprint and ID you. Well, this was a handprint ID system, handprint ID. So it recognizes the operator based off of the hand, putting the hand in the same molded extraterrestrial handprint that this machine had. Okay, so it was like it had 2 mold shapes of extraterrestrial handprints made inside of this metallic object, which was about maybe 2.5 feet to 3 feet. And you put your hand in this extraterrestrial hand mold print made in metallic metal, some form of metallic metal, and it had the left hand and right hand mold of an extraterrestrial's hand made inside of this metal object. It seems as though to me that would be somewhat of maybe a UFO. Seemed like maybe an operational system of some sort. Could be an operational system to guide the UFO, or it even could have been something that they used to open doors up. Like, you know, how you have a thumbprint, some doors have locks mechanisms where you have to put your thumb there or your eyes there. And so it's some sort of opening mechanism for some sort of device, whether it's a UFO or operating mechanism for some form of spaceship. And then also she had this extraterrestrial, some form of metal bore system that we think to be from the spaceship, right? And it was in hieroglyphics. It was a hieroglyphic carved metal bore, which had something like Egyptian, it looked like Egyptian and Asian hieroglyphic writing, but it was extraterrestrial writing made all over this bore, this metal bore. The last I've seen, yes.
Oh, go ahead.
The last I've seen of that same metal bore object that I seen was in the Indian. It was an Indian Navajo reservoir. I think it was the Indian. Indian Navajo. Indian Chief Navajo, who was on a UFO documentary, and he had one of the same objects that my mother had. And I don't know if he got that from her, but it would look like the same object that we had. Because remember, my grandmother had Indian in her, so I think it was that side of the family who passed that on. But last I seen was some sort of Navajo Indian chief. I want to say Indian chief that presented this actual extraterrestrial board engraved with hieroglyphics, and that happened to be the same looking board that we had. Yeah.
So I'm just kind of, wondering, with you being a young person at that time, just really understand what you were looking at.
How did I know that? Yeah, I was always a stout listener. I was a stout listener, and I had a high comprehension. Even when I was a child, my mother and father thought because I would be young, I couldn't understand. A lot of people thought that because I was 5, 6, 7, and 8, they didn't think I could understand what was going on and what was really going on and what things meant. But I had a high understanding, just like you see a little kid 6 or 7 today. They understand a lot more than we think they understand. You see, but
so tell me a little bit. What else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, my sisters were there too. It wasn't just me there. My mother, my father, my sisters, and my aunt was there. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it was a family thing then. So do you think that your family could have extraterrestrial connections, or was this just a thing that somebody in the family found the crash retrieval thing? Because I know you mentioned at the beginning of the call, we talked about satanic rituals and all that, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. Okay, sounds good then. All right. So, did your family...
And I'm going to tell you why. I know this. And it is amazing.
Let's go into it then. Let's go. So
let me tell you this.
Go ahead.
Now, my father's side of his family are very, 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 very protective and very, very, very secretive. They don't like anybody knowing any of this, anybody at all. But I'll tell you this. One thing I know for a fact, we mentioned a lot of ufology research goes to the study of the Nephilim, which is supposedly thought of as the Anunnaki's children, the children of the fallen angels, better known as, I guess, the Nephilim, right? The Nephilim was known as giants. So in the Bible, it talks about the fallen angels had saw the daughters of men and seen they were fair and had children by them. So when the fallen angels, quote unquote aliens, seeing human women, they began to procreate and have children by these women. And their children became giants. Now this is what this has to do with is my uncle, which is my father's brother, who stood over 6'8". Yeah, my father's brother is a complete giant. He weighed like 565 pounds. He stood over 6'8", almost 7 feet tall. And and all of his sons are just, well over 6'5" or 6, all of them. And then my aunt, one time I seen, and I don't know if you want me to talk about this right now, but I walked in the kitchen. This was after the rehearsal that's in my book, Inside the Shy-Lights Music. My book, Inside the Shy-Lights Music, features quite a bit of detail about this stuff, but I'm writing another book that will talk about the whole entire thing, but it talks about the satanic connection and the phenomena involving phenomenal activity involving that. But I walked in.
Pause right there. Pause there for a second. We will get to that. I want to go back real quick. Take me back to your uncle. Give me some physical descriptions of this guy, and because you're talking about Nephilim. So yes,
my uncle was just if you would just, he's basically a giant. You know, he's a giant for our day and age. I mean, he's well over 6'8", and he weighed over 565 pounds. Very, very strong. And I seen his son in Detroit, Michigan, and this guy could barely walk. Yeah, his son is so tall he barely can walk through the door without bending down. I mean, a 7-foot tall door. His son is so tall he has to almost bend down just to get through the door.
And he's living. Both of them living today.
Oh yes, yeah, well the son is living. All of his sons are living. Yes, and they're giants. And I met his other son, which what was his name? Is it Matthew? He is huge. I actually went to school with one of his sons in Chicago, Illinois, in National Louis University. And this guy weighs every bit of over 500 pounds. And he's about 6'4" or 5", somewhere around 6'4" or 5". He maybe more like 6'5". Every bit of 500 pounds. No. So I say that to say, and then also I don't know if you want me to talk about my aunt that I've seen with the rat situation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that too now that you're saying some rats there. So I was just trying to set up the Nephilim side with the uncle and just trying to get a little more descriptions of him and, you know, how big he was.
He's a very, very, very tall man. Very, very tall. Extraordinary. Tall as an NBA player. Or actually taller than some NBA players. Taller than some.
Well, let's go to your aunt. Then we'll talk about the satanic stuff. So let's go with her. You said rats, so that caught my attention there.
Yes, sir. This was one of the most amazing things I ever seen in my life, and I did not. There are other two things. I'm gonna talk about. Okay, let's talk about this one. But I never seen anything like this other than in the movies. But I walked into the room. This happened after my father came from his world tour concert with the Shy Lights. They did an international concert in 1982. They did which featured the Jacksons, where they toured nationally here in the United States with the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson, and then they went over to Europe and did an international tour from Europe on internationally all the way through Asia. Now, when they came back, they earned about $30 million, and the Jacksons earned about $70 million from this. So we had a big dinner for the success of my father's world tour with the Shy Lights, right? So my aunt happened to be coming over, and she came over, and my mother was in the kitchen preparing some food for this party, right? So I walk in the kitchen, and I notice, I says, first I hear my father say, my mom said, well, what does your sister want to eat? What is her favorite food? Then my father said, well, you know, my sister's favorite food is rats. Her favorite food is rats. And I didn't know what to make of that. He said, my sister's favorite food is rats. And so I come in later into the...
I'm sitting here like, right. Now, how old were you again on this one?
I'm about 8.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So 7, 8, somewhere around 7 or 8. So I'm coming in. So then she's like, your favorite food? He's like, yeah, you know my sister Margie's favorite food is rats. He said, my sister Margie's favorite food is rats. So I come in the kitchen later and I see these baking sheets, these, metallic baking sheets filled one by one with rats. I tell you no lie. I had to ask my mother. I'm like, are those rats? Aren't those rats on there? And she said, yeah, that's your aunt's favorite food. So I remember coming back, right? When they all come to the party, they all at the dinner, and they're all coming to the party for the dinner. And so now I see my aunt eating these rats.
Now, who all was at the party?
Marshall Thompson from the Shy-Lights, the lead singer of the Shy-Lights, Marshall Thompson. All the Shy-Lights were there. Eugene Records, Robert Lester, Marshall Thompson, my dad, Creedell Jones, the Jackson 5, Joe Jackson.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Jackson 5, like.
Yeah, the Jackson 5.
Michael Jackson and crew was there where y'all were serving rats?
Right. It was Jermaine Jackson, Tito Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Jackie Jackson, Joe Jackson, Catherine Jackson. They were all there. Yeah, they were all there. And the Shy-Lights. And Michael Jackson, the owner of Brunswick Records, named Nathan Trainapole, was there, and his wife, and several other celebrities. But so that, along with my father's sister, Margie Jones, and Mavelina, and I think some of his brothers, his brother Kenneth, that's his name, Kenneth. The giant brother name is Kenneth. My father's giant brother's name, Kenneth. And so I'm walking in, and I actually see her eat these rats. And I see Marshall Thompson eating these rats from the Shy-Lights, and I see Joe Jackson eating these rats, Michael Jackson's father. And they happen to love, I mean, they're eating these rats like you would eat shrimp, like you would eat lobster.
So now,
crab.
but now are these rats, you know, how are they cooked? How were they skinned? Were they?
They were stuffed in the oven. I mean, they were baked. I think they were skinned. I think they were skinned, and they were cut open like you would cut a potato or a chicken, and they stuffed the rats full of something, like some sort of stuffing was inside the rats, and they were eating these stuffed rats like you would eat shrimp or lobster or crab. And it kind of shocked me. I'm kind of shocked.
Now,
like what?
You're 8 years old, so couldn't it have been some stuffed Danish hens? You know what I'm saying? Could have been something.
No, these are rats because they had tails.
Okay.
And if I remember right, I don't want to say wrong, but another distinguished, they were brown rats. Most of them were brown in the oven. I don't know if they were brown. Yeah,
brown because they cooked and burnt, or you know.
Oh, I some of them had skin on it though, like a rat. You know, a rat that got skin on it and fur on it. Some of them look that. Some of them look like that, just like a rat that has been cut open and stuffed, and you put on a platter and put in the oven. That's what it looked like. And you could, and the tail was there and everything. The tail was on it and everything. And they would pick the rat up by its tail and eat it. They would pick the rats that they ate up by their tails as they ate them. And then the most shocking of it all is that when I walked in one of the rooms, I seen my Aunt Margie takes his, I want to say this rat is a good anywhere from 8 inches to maybe 9 inches long, at least, with a tail. It was a white rat, and this rat was still alive. This was a live rat now. She swallows this rat. She opens her mouth so wide. The only thing I can give you, your viewers and the fans here, the image of what actually it looked like. If you ever seen the movie The V's, okay?
The old movie series back in the day.
Yes, sir. The movie The V's. The one of the leading ladies' name were Diane. One of the characters' name is Diane in this movie, and they happen to show her eat this rat. And I think that Hollywood possibly was trying to tell us something about these reptilian creatures or extraterrestrial hybrids, okay, and their love for eating rats, because they love rats They absolutely loved them. Okay, so they were eating these, and I seen her eat this huge white rat that was still alive when she swallowed it. It had to be 9 inches long. And just the body itself, right? So her mouth opened so wide it looked like something out of a horror movie, right? I mean, no human being can open their mouth that wide. The best example is a snake that kind of can detach his lower jaw to eat large prey. Well, her mouth, I don't know if her jaw detached, but it had to detach because there's no way that a human being's mouth can be that wide open. So I would say it looked like her jaw may have detached from itself like a snake or a reptile detaches its jaw. And she swallowed this huge rat. And as she swallowed this rat, I could see it moving around in her throat as it goes down her throat. I actually seen this rat still alive moving around down her throat as she swallowed it. And it was at least 8 to 9 inches long going down her throat. It's still moving around.
What did you do? You standing there, you looking at this? Did you go? What did you do?
I'm shocked. I don't even know if I screamed. I might have screamed a little bit out of startle. I might have been a little startled, like, Mom! I think I screamed from my mother. And my mom said, "Oh, that's your aunt. That's just your aunt." Like that. He said, "Oh, don't be scared. That's just your aunt."
And this is your mother's sister eating rats.
That's my father's sister, right? Not my mother's sister.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
but my aunt Regina was there too, so she was there too though now. But my father's sister is the one who ate the rat. All of it, most of what I seen from that aspect was his side of the family.
Your father's side, okay.
Yes, most of it was from his father, or from his side of the family. But my aunt Regina was also there eating them too. But as far as the paranormal activity, I witnessed mostly from his side of the family. And then I was just shocked. My sister was there too, and she was like,
else eating rats?
Well, mostly truthfully, I seen Joe Jackson eat a whole lot of rats, and I seen Marshall eat a whole lot of. Mostly it was
you think or you saw Joe Jackson?
Not I think, I seen them. I actually seen with my eyes them eat rats. No lie. I take a lie detector tests on this. I'll take a lie detector test, put my hand on a Bible, a stack of Bibles from here to China that I've seen them eat rats.
Okay.
It was amazing, but I've seen them. Should we talk about the devil worship? Because I've actually seen them. I've seen them eat human babies too now.
Oh, whoa! You've seen them, and who is them?
Marshall Thompson, the Shielites, and the Jackson 5 members. Joe Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Tito Jackson, Jackie Jackson, and and like I say, Joe Jackson. So all 4 Jacksons. I'm not sure. I think Michael was there at the time. I think Michael might have been there at the time. My memory serves me right, but I know for a fact that I seen all of the Jackson 5 with the exception of Michael, who left earlier. I think he might have left a little earlier in his black limousine before this happened. I don't know if he stayed there for the whole dinner. I can't remember that much, but I do remember that all of the rest of the Jacksons, including his father, Joe Jackson, did eat babies following the Satanic Ritual. Because this happened during the Satanic Ritual following the rape of my sister, Trinell Jones, and my other sister, Tamiko, my older sister, Tamiko. and me.
Wait a minute. So we're talking rape allegations that they raped who raped your sister?
Well, the Jackson Five and the Shy-Lights and Marshall Thompson, the co-founder of the Shy-Lights, and the owner of Brunswick Records at the time was Nathan Trainapole, which is a Jewish record company owner. He initiated the Satanic Ritual when my father was called by Marshall Thompson to renegotiate his contract with Brunswick Records with the rest of the Shy-Light members. It was told to my father and mother and the Shy-Lights that they had to undergo a satanic ritual in order to do this, right? So he had to sign, the legitimate contractual agreement with the Brunswick Records. And then he also, which is the same record company as Jackie Wilson and Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby, etc., Buddy Holly, Gene Chandler, Jerry Butler, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday. These are the same. All of them are on the same record company. Billie Holiday, Duke Ellington, etc.
Now, this is some strong allegations now that the Jacksons, all these people raped someone or
they raped my
babies.
Well, yes. What occurred was Brunswick Records requested that my dad re-sign and negotiate his record contract with the Shy-Lights. During that time, the FBI and IRS was investigating the Shy-Lights, so they had to renegotiate the contractual agreement with Brunswick Records. And under that contractual renegotiation was the legitimate legal contract, which is the contract that we all know as a record contract, which stated that they were to receive 25% of the royalties of their music from the gross royalty sales of their music, and then the secondary satanic record contractual agreement with Brunswick was the satanic contract that had to be signed and written in blood. So there was a contractual agreement written in blood with all of the Shy-Light members, including my father. He had to sign it. They also had contracts where the wife and children had to sign as well.
So but you sign something?
My mom made me put my X on it because I couldn't write my name. I was so young. But my older sister Tamiko had to write her name. She was old enough. She was 11 years old. I was only 5 or 6, so I was only 6, so I can only put my X there. But nevertheless, I put an X there. And my sister had to write her name if she could. She was only 1 year. She was about, I'm gonna say 7 or 8 at that time. And so after this contractual agreement, a satanic ritual was done. And this is in my book, Inside the Shy-Lights Music. In the first chapter of the book called The Rehearsal is the first chapter of Inside the Shy-Lights Music. It talks and gives specific details of this. But what happened is that after that contractual agreement, we had a rehearsal party that was going on following the rehearsals of the Jackson 5 and the Shy-Lights. Michael Jackson came in a black limousine. Joe Jackson and the Jackson 5 came in a separate black limousine, two limos. One was Michael Jackson's and the other one was the Jackson 5 because Michael would ride with his own brothers. He had his own separate limo at that time, 1981, 82. So I remember meeting Michael Jackson picking me up and kind of, hugging me and so forth. And then we went into the house. Michael Jackson and Jackson 5 and his father Joe went in the house with us. And the Shy-Lights came in their limo, and they began to do their rehearsals. Following the rehearsals and the contract signing, followed that. The satanic ritual followed that. Right after the rehearsal came the satanic ritual, where they took my sister, age about, I'm going to say 7 or 8 at that time, down to the basement entertainment room where they do where it was like a bar there and pool table there, but they also used it for rehearsals, etc. It happened to be a altar there. I don't know who or how they got this altar downstairs in their entertainment room, but I happened to hear my sister screaming, "Help, mom, help, 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 mom, help!" You know, like a 6 or 7 year old, I should say I'm 6 at that time, but 7 or 8 year old girl would be screaming. So she's screaming for help, right? So it's my sister. So I'm walking down there trying to find my sister, and I'll go down the steps. I hear my sister screaming more and more. I see the Jackson 5 standing with black robes on, and the Shielites had red satanic robes on. They both had satanic robes on. The Jacksons had black satanic robes, and then the Shielites had red satanic robes. And so she's just hollering. So I'm following her voice, and as I walk by, the Jacksons are standing there, and the Shielites are standing there. And she's in a separate room with Marshall Thompson and Joe Jackson, the father of Michael Jackson. Right? So I walk and hear her voice, and now I'm walking in the room. I happen to see Joe Jackson holding my sister down by her shoulders as Marshall Thompson rapes her. She's 7 years old at that time. So they're holding this 7-year-old girl down.
Rape her in a sexual manner, like intercourse?
Rape her. Intercourse, yes. I mean, literally, Joe Jackson is holding her shoulders down while Marshall from the Shielites is literally on top of her, all on top of her with his private part all the way in her vagina. And just raping her as if you would rape a woman, as if he was raping a grown woman. You know, viciously, savagely raping her. So I try to stop him.
You know, this is some hard allegations, and you say you got this in your book?
Yes, sir. It's in the book. My book, Inside the Shielites Music. It's like, I mean, I have no problem with putting this in my book because it happened, and the Jacksons know that this happened, of course, and they haven't tried to. I actually contacted Michael Jackson's son. I contacted Michael Jackson's niece named Yashi Brown, which is the daughter of Rebe Jackson. And I contacted the Jackson 5 and let them know that I had this in my book. I wanted them to know this is not something that they don't know about. And as of yet...
Any response for anybody?
I haven't contacted Janet Jackson. And, I contacted her by...
She wasn't there, though, right?
No, but I want her to know. In other words, I want their whole family to know that I'm putting this in my book. So I contacted the management of the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson's management and sent this to them. And sent, not only that, I had a couple videos up. I also sent them the copy of the book and the links to the book on Amazon, on Google Play, it's in Barnes & Noble. It's even at the public libraries all over the United States. You can order this book online at any public library for free. Or you can go to Barnes & Noble and buy it, or Amazon.com or Google Play and Apple.
Well, what would you say to people who will say, "Oh man, he just made this stuff up. He's trying to sell some books," and you know,
not even.
We're going to talk about proof. You know, how are you going to prove all of this? And
I can prove it. That's no problem. Because it's not a mystery. They can look this up. That in 1981 and 82, the Shielites and the Jacksons did a world tour, did a nationwide tour together. And following the death of Michael Jackson, it's not a mystery that Marshall Thompson, the very same man who raped my sister and also raped me at that time, because I tried to stop the rape and wind up getting raped. Yeah, I wind up getting raped by the Jackson 5 and Joe Jackson and Marshall and the Shielites.
Whoa. So you're saying all of them, Tito, the dad, all of them had sexual intercourse with you?
With me, yes, sir, and my sisters. And my sister.
And
it was forcible. Yes, Trinell and Tamika.
So why would your father
allow that?
Choose to put his children up as sacrifices like that?
Well, I want to tell you this. Let me tell you this. After the death of Michael Jackson, Joe Jackson and Marshall Thompson established a record company together, and this kind of shows you the close friendship that the Shylights and the Jackson family have, because Joe Jackson immediately opened a record company with Marshall Thompson following the death of Michael Jackson, and TMZ happened to have that on. They actually did a news report about that, about Marshall Thompson establishing a record company with Joe Jackson following the death of Michael Jackson. But why would my father allow that? Let me tell you that all of the Shylights members had allowed their children to be sexually molested and raped in order to continue their contractual agreement with Bronze Records. And also, see, it's a natural. I want to say this. It is a customary thing for people in the entertainment industry to allow their children to be used as sexual bargaining chips for contracts involving music, record contracts, movies, and television contracts. That's always, we hear stories of Corey Feldman, who came out and just admitted that sexual child molestation is a very, very common thing in the Hollywood and music industry. They love doing sexual child molestation with kids. They're pedophiles. And my sister also was used as in child pornography, but briefly. She wound up later becoming a stripper because of all of this. When she was about 17, 18 to around 20, in her early 20s. So it altered her course of life. And then later she wound up working as a manager for a talent agency in Las Vegas. Yeah.
Now, what is her life like today, briefly? Just touch on it a little bit.
Well, I don't speak much to my sisters anymore because of the amount of abuse that we suffered. It played a tremendous role on our lives, a tremendous role. It broke our family structure up, truthfully, very badly.
Well, I mean, but you all didn't bond over it since it happened to y'all together to come together, but how did it separate y'all?
How did it separate us? I tell you, it kind of started, the biggest divide of our family started when my father and the FBI and IRS, when the IRS, this is in the book Inside the Shylights Music, okay? So when the FBI investigated his record company, Bronze Records, Marshall Thompson and Nathan Trainapole, the owner of Bronze Records, told my father to open up child trust accounts because the IRS was about to form an investigation too. And so Jackie Wilson had already been investigated by the IRS, and Bronze Records was investigated for the abuse of their artists and the theft of royalties from the Shylights and Jackie Wilson and people like Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington, etc. So it was advised by the owner of the record company, Nathan, and Marshall Thompson from the Shylights, who sits as the board director of Bronze Records. It was advised that all of the Shylights open up, kind of like tax haven trust accounts under their children. So when my father opened up all of our trust accounts, he put a $3.5 million in trust accounts for me, my sister Trinell, Tamiko, and my half brothers and sisters by his first wife, his ex-wife. And the lady that appeared on Fraternity Court TV with me, named Andrea Yarbrough, was given a trust fund. She lied. She said she never got anything, but my mother and father were taking care of her. She lived right next door across the street from our house. All the while, I didn't even know that she was our babysitter, but at the same time, she was being taken care of. So my father even opened a trust account for her too. So the $3.5 million in total broke up the family because they began to fight over all of this money. My father, sister and brother, Kenneth, the giant guy, and his sister Margie Jones winded up kidnapping me and my sister when I was 6 and she was 7, and they held us for ransom for $500,000. And the FBI was brought into this to do the investigation, to negotiate the kidnapping. And so my mother and father never found out that it was his own sister and brother who kidnapped us.
Man,
and held us. And then they held us. Unbelievable, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you hear all of that, I'm still shocked and want us to go back into some of this alien stuff and rituals and, to kind of know, tie it all back into, like you said, you got your book, you have these
Inside
stories. And so would you say that the Jacksons, the Chilites, are all connected to extraterrestrials, since we have this satanic? So bring that together. Let's come together with that. Dude.
I'm gonna tell you the facts. I'm gonna tell you the facts. Yes, I would say that. I absolutely would say that. I absolutely would say that. I would say that the Satanic Rituals are 100% connected into the extraterrestrial abductions and the extraterrestrial close encounters and manifestations, 100%, because 90% of the people who have been abducted by extraterrestrials have had some form of satanic ritual abuse done to them, like me and my sisters, and or have had some of their family members, mother or father, uncles or aunts, involved with Satanism or satanic practices. Yes, that's 100% involved. In fact, the nature of the Satanic Rituals is to invoke the extraterrestrial entities, which people believe are interdimensional, extraterrestrial interdimensional creatures. Okay, so the whole Satanic Ritual is to invoke the appearance and to invoke the connection to the extraterrestrial, what we call extraterrestrial EBTs, interdimensionary extraterrestrial beings. So the whole point is to actually summon these extraterrestrials to you by doing the Satanic Rituals. But now, are you asking me, do I think that they themselves are extraterrestrials? I think that, yes, they have been inbred with extraterrestrials, yes. If you want to know what I think, yes, I think that they have been inbred with them, yes.
Now, who would be they?
They would be the Jackson family. My father's family and my father's sisters and brothers, no question in my mind. I've seen them eat rats. I've seen the extraterrestrial devices mentioned in the book Entertainers Against Exploitation. I'm sorry, that's my organization. Inside the Shy Lights music does talk about the extraterrestrial satanic connection, but with what all I've seen, the Satanic Ritual practices, child molestation, and Satanic Rituals to invoke the interdimensionary extraterrestrial beings, which 100% is involved with the bloodline of those who are in trying to invoke these creatures. Because the only way that you can really summon these extraterrestrial entities is that you have to have a bloodline linked to them. See, so the human and body.
In order to summon them, you have to have a bloodline linked to them. Okay?
Yes. This is why we have people in the royal family, okay, who are, they have something called blue bloods, which are supposed to be normal people, and then you have, these royal family member people, the royal family, like Prince Charles and Queen Elizabeth. These people have been interbred with these extraterrestrial, interdimensionary creatures, okay? Or some people call them reptilians. Some of the people call them reptilians. So this is why I believe that they conduct satanic rituals. Those who are really, really, really involved in Satanism, they know that the bloodline of these fallen angels or extraterrestrial by entity interdimensionary creatures has been mixed, according to what the Bible has left us to believe, has been mixed with human beings, because they have fallen angels looked upon human women, had children by them. In the Bible it says they had children by these fallen angels, and their children became kings and men of renown, specifying people like my father, Creedell from the Shielites, the Jackson family, Michael Jackson, etc., the royal family members. They all have bloodlines in extraterrestrials, yes.
Okay. All right. So, interesting.
And this kind of gives us why certain people in Hollywood are given high positions. You got a lot of people that try to come in the music industry, and when they want to be successful, like my father from the Shielites, who got a store on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and he's in the R&B Hall of Fame, et cetera, vocal group Hall of Fame. And in order to get this fame, you have to have a certain level of extraterrestrial bloodline in order to do that. This is what Hollywood won't tell you. This is the secret in my book, Inside the Shielites Music, that I am telling everybody, is that a lot of people want to come in the music and entertainment industry, Hollywood, movies, and television. But what they really don't understand is that, see, it all comes down to the bloodline of each person. Some people have, those who have a very high bloodline of these extraterrestrials are given positions in Hollywood. And they're raised to be celebrities. They're brought into the music and entertainment industry. Similar to Michael Jackson, who was kind of raised to be a celebrity. He was raised up. He was geared and mentored to be that. A lot of these people they don't accidentally make it. Oh, I made it in Hollywood and I just became. They don't accidentally. This is not an accident at all, because when we look at Mariah Carey, and I want to bring her into this because this is a very, very great example of what I'm talking about, okay? Mariah Carey talks about how her mother was involved in Satanism and practices satanic rituals. She was a Satanist herself. She was a Luciferian. And so her sister and brother recently came out in the public and said, hey, our mother used to make us participate in satanic rituals. That kind of just, knocked people away. They made people shocked. But most of these people have been involved in satanic rituals, and point being is because of the extraterrestrial connection. That they have a bloodline from the fallen angels, and that gives them precedence as to be celebrities or to be, kings and queens, if you want to say that. Princess Diana actually said that she walked in and she seen Prince Charles, I would say, transition, shapeshift into a reptilian. And so we hear stories about people like Justin Bieber transforming into reptilians. We hear stories about Zuckerberg, the owner of Facebook, being sighted and transforming into reptilians. We hear stories about, I want to say Tom Cruise, whose ex-wife said that she walked in the shower and seen him shapeshift into a reptilian. So,
I've never heard all those stories, but it's
shapeshifting. My mother said she saw my father shapeshift. She used to always say that. She used to always say that she more than quite a few times she said she saw him shapeshift.
Well, then, have you tried summing up? Since that means if your father could have aliens, now it's in your bloodline, and have you tried to summon up aliens, or what is your bloodline?
Have I ever tried to? One time. Well, okay. You're not gonna believe me, but one time my mother kept all of this. Okay, I had amnesia for quite some time. My aunt had. When I was young, she tried to drown me when my mother and father told her that that they couldn't get my.
What age were you think?
I was about 7 when she tried to drown me. This was after.
Do you still remember all of this other stuff that happened when you were 5, 6?
Oh, I didn't because my amnesia. I can only remember bits and pieces of things for up until about in my 20s, my late 20s, early 30s. And so because of the fact that my Aunt Regina asked my mother, she said, "Well, how are we going to get Darren's trust fund?" And she said, my mother told her, "Well, he has to die of an accidental death or be declared mentally incompetent," right? And then my Aunt Regina told my mom, "Well, if you don't got the guts to do it, I will." And she told me to go to the bathroom, and she held me by my shoulders until I drowned to death right in front of my mother and father. And I was actually dead for about 5 minutes, about 4.5 minutes. And resuscitated again, and we resuscitated. It's in my book, Inside the Shy Lights Music. And what happened is that I developed, due to the lack of oxygen to my brain for over 4 minutes, it gave me a sort of an amnesia type thing a little bit. And so it wasn't until I got in my late 20s, early 30s till I could all put it together. Those images that I remember, I started doing research on the images I remember. I said, "Oh, that makes sense. This makes sense. That's what happened. This is what happened." And so that's how I got my memory back. But it was a severe situation, and I was scared of water for so long due to the drowning that my aunt did to me when I was 7 over my trust fund. And they still been harassing me today, being gang stalked over the money that they're hiding. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit. We're gonna, since we're recording this, and would you be willing to come live on a show?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I love to.
All right. So, in spite of, do you fear any repercussions or drawbacks if you start seeing this Jackson stuff live? If they got money and power, could they come out and say, "Hey, he's nuts, he's crazy"? What defense do you have if they try to, character assassination?
Okay. I was actually took into the house after I was raped like that by the Jackson 5, and me and my sisters actually. We were took into Cornell Glidden's hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. And we were given a rape test. And the doctors and nurses, it's in our medical records, that they declared us as being raped and sexually molested.
And they didn't report it. And don't they have to report it to the authorities, or?
Right, but due to the fact that these people, the Jackson 5, Joe Jackson and Tito Jackson, Jermaine Jackson, Marlon Jackson, and Jackie Jackson, and the Shy Lights, Marshall, Eugene, Robert, and my father, Credell, my mother wasn't going to report that because of the fact my father was involved with the molestation too, and she didn't want her husband and her and the Jacksons to go to jail for it. But we were bleeding, and this is what led my mother to take us there, because we were bleeding very, very profusely. At least I was. For several days, because it was, it was Jermaine Jackson, Tito Jackson, Marlon Jackson, Jackie Jackson, and Joe Jackson. And the 4 Chi-Lite members. Plus, so you're talking about 11 or 12 men raping a 6 and a 7-year-old. That's, those, we were going to bleed for quite some days.
Mm.
That's what led my mother to take us there. But not only that, my father and the Chi-Lites all had plane tickets right from St. Louis, from our house, St. Louis, with the Jacksons. Okay, so let's say when the Jackson 5 came to pick up my father in a limousine with, the Chi-Lites had their limousine, the Jacksons had their limousine, but they all went on the same plane to do their concert, okay? They all were on the same plane together. And all the limousine chauffeurs remember picking them up, taking them to our house, who drove them there. The hotel staff who housed the Jackson 5 while they were in St. Louis to do the concert with and do the rehearsal with the Chi-Lites and my father, Creedell. All of the hotel staff remember them. Of course, you would never forget Michael Jackson, the Jackson 5, and the Chi-Lites. So, by way of medical records, by way of eyewitness testimonies from chauffeurs, hospital staff, nurses, doctors, and even limousine drivers and hotel workers who all serviced these Jackson 5 members while they were over in St. Louis for the brief time that they were there to do the rehearsal with my father and the Chi-Lites. There's many witnesses to this. And then also I would say that LaToya Jackson herself mentions how Joe Jackson raped her and her sister, Rebe Jackson. So it's not really, it's not a mystery that Joe Jackson raped his own children.
Okay.
He was a pedophile, and unfortunately the Jackson 5 became pedophiles themselves, unfortunately. I feel sorry for the Jackson 5. Sometimes I feel sorry for them because I know they were raped by their father and they were used as sex toys for many of the producers throughout Hollywood and Motown Records, but it doesn't give them the right to rape children. I mean, I was raped by them. They raped me and my sisters. So I would never touch a child.
So what we're going to do, I'm gonna tone this down or shut it down so that we can move to the next phase of possibly doing a live interview, but just so that the people is listening, you got a book, you're trying to do some things. What do you gain from, is there anything you gain from this that people may be thinking, he just, like I said earlier, he's just trying to get a little publicity or whatever? Is there an objective, and why would you, really spill the beans on your family like that?
Why would I spill the beans on my family like that? Well, I'm going to tell you, a lot of this has to do with tremendous abuse that I've suffered from them. Physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, financial abuse, because they're hiding my trust fund and my dad left, which Troy Gordon from Bank of America at 6300 Sunset Boulevard discovered during the IRS investigation of Marshall Thompson, which resulted in them auditing him, freezing his account, and Marshall had illegally gotten the trust.
What would they have to gain? Not so much on that part, because we have an audience about, and I want you to get your story out, but we got an audience that's interested in the alien side of what you're doing. So where would this connect them from your money to the fact that Yeah, you guys got alien connections. Oh, they got
What?
satanic
Okay.
rituals.
Yeah. Truthfully, I just want to tell the story because it's the truth, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Right, I got you.
There's been so much throughout my life and my father's life from the Shielites, Cleo Jones. Me and my father has experienced so much character assassination and defamation about our characters. They had wrongfully committed my father, and in order to take over trust funds, and I had to watch him be called all kinds of names and doubting his sanity, and I knew from seeing everything that was happening, just like described in my book, Inside the Shielites Music, that as I described what was really going on behind the exploitation of my father and mother from the Shielites, I also tell to my own story, but it's not for money. It's more or less to just tell the truth. I just of course, it's my father, and I don't want people. Although he did, take a part of the rape molestation of me and my sisters, I don't want people. He was a good man. He would give anybody anything if he had it, and he loved us. He loved us to death, and I was his favorite son. So, I love my father, and I could care less somewhat about the money. I know that sounds crazy, but I could care less about the money. It's more about clearing up the disdain about what happened to my father and myself as being, wrongfully understood or misunderstood by people. And me and my father and mother never was able to get our story completely told. And I felt like doing this book, I care about the truth and nothing but the truth in this book. And most of the things I mentioned in this book has already been discussed and validated from other people in Hollywood who are Hollywood elites, Hollywood experts, Hollywood veterans of Hollywood about the child molestation, Corey Feldman, who allocated that, LaToya Jackson, who allocated the rape of her own sisters and brothers by her father, Joe Jackson, right? So most of what I'm saying, and then the Brunswick Records was investigated by the FBI and the IRS. That's all over the internet. If you type in Brunswick Records investigation, there's a book called Jackie Wilson, The Man and the Mob, The Man, the Music, and the Mob, which talks about the corruption done by Nathan Trainer Polder to Jackie Wilson. I mean, for me, it's about telling the truth. I love to just sit the thing right, because I feel that my mom and father can't rest. There's so much that has been hidden from the public about the Shielites, about the music and entertainment industry that we hear today involving Satanism, which connects into extraterrestrials. I think that the average, well, let's just say the legendary entertainers or famous musicians today, they don't connect it all. They don't tell the full entire truth about what they're doing. Like Nas X, I guess his name is, what's his name? Little Lucifer, or this guy here. They really just don't tell the whole entire facts about why they're doing Satanism, where the Satanism comes from, what's the intention behind it. But me being the son of a legendary entertainer and a veteran of the music and Hollywood industry, I know what goes on behind it and why it happens. So it's not about money. It's about educating people, telling the truth, and bringing clarity to the story of the Shielites, my father and myself and my mother, his wife. His wife, Deborah Jones, since 1978, the wife of my father, and the widow and wife of my father, my mother, Deborah Jones. So, to me, it's just about getting the truth out. But in the process, I've had a lot of taken from me. My father died homeless and destituted. They wouldn't let me tell why he died that way. And I would love to be able to tell the whole entire story of the whole thing, but there's so many different parts of the story.
I'm sure that, we're going to be able to get that out there, get all that story out there. So what I'm going to do is tell you, man, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate us having this conversation. I got your contact information. I'm going to try to set something up. You know, I don't know if you got a good webcam and some good lighting and a good mic or something, because they're going to have to really hear this story. And, you know, we'll probably set something up and either do a live interview or a video interview, and then I'll create it into content, and then we can, you know, put it up on our YouTube channel and get some stuff out. So,
oh my God, I would appreciate that. You don't know how much that would help me. Yes.
Hey, well, we're going to do that, and so why don't we get back, you know, and just give me, you know, a few days to reach out and set something up, and we'll talk.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.